morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Google Camp. And my name is Grecia, and I will be your moderator tech for this session. I'm here to provide virtual support for you and the presenter during the presentation. Should you have any questions or need assistance with the Zoom interface, you can use the chat icon on the toolbar at the bottom of your screen, search for moderator, and send a direct message to me. I will do my best to provide assistance to resolve your concerns. And today's session is Amplify Learning Through Videos, and here's your presenter.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I hope everyone is having a fantastic Thursday. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. My name is Lanny Gauntlet. I am the Instructional Technology Coordinator for Beaumont Unified School District. And today, my session is all about how you can amplify student learning through video. I am extremely passionate about bringing video into the hands of our students and having them use this tool to be creative and demonstrate learning. So this session will all be about that. This is the bit.ly down here on the screen. It's bit.ly/goocamp22. We also have the lovely Grecia, who, if for some reason you don't have that link throughout the presentation, she's going to go ahead and throw that into the chat box as well. All right, with that, let's get started. So today in this session, I hope you walk away with knowing what video creation is, why it's important to integrate into our instruction, and then how you can use video creation tools with Google. So all the tools I'm going to show you for today, all of those tools aren't actually with Google, but they integrate seamlessly with Google. And I'm going to show you how that works today. You'll know you're successful at the end of this by meeting those learning goals if you can explain what video creation is, if you can explain why creating these opportunities for your students is important, and if you can then now take this knowledge and start integrating video creation into a lesson or start thinking about how you're going to integrate that into this following school year. So I always like to start off with a little bit of a collaborative activity, and we're going to do something called Waterfall. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but this is kind of a virtual learning activity to kind of get participation throughout all of our participants. And what we're going to do is we're going to answer this question in the chat. Do not press enter until you hear the word waterfall. And then we're going to see a huge waterfall of answers based on this question that I'm going to ask you. So what I want to know from you is, how do you currently use video in your classroom? And if you're not currently using video, that is okay. If you personally as a teacher are using video, that's great. Maybe if you're already dabbling with students using video, that's great as well. Maybe you're starting to think about how you want to use video in the classroom, that's great. Wherever you are in terms of using video in your classroom, go ahead and type that into the chat. Don't press enter yet. And when I say waterfall, we'll press enter and see a nice big waterfall of answers coming through. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think that through and type that into the chat. All right, I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds to get that answer in the chat. And when you hear waterfall, go ahead and press enter and see how everyone is using or thinking about using video in their classroom. All right. Oh, we're doing it, but I haven't said waterfall yet, but waterfall, there you go. All right, waterfall. Let's go ahead and enter it in. Let's see what we're doing. So virtual field trips, fantastic. I see some Flipgrid in there. Through Google Classroom, lots of Flipgrid. Google Slides. Okay, so we have someone that's new to it. Delivering information is fantastic. Google Classroom, so we're utilizing YouTube to help with math skills. So I'm seeing a lot of teachers that are currently using it to support student learning. We have student reflections, fluency reads, summary. Great. You show them occasionally. You want to start making your own video. Fantastic. Recording instructions, Flipgrid. All right, so what I'm seeing is we're really all over the board, which is fantastic, of where we are with currently using video. So as we progress through this presentation, I want you just to kind of reflect on where you're at and where you might want to go next. So let's start with the why. Why should we start thinking about using video or having our students use video and create video in the classroom to support learning? So all of us as educators are really familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. And if you look at the top of Bloom's taxonomy, it is to create. We know that by asking our students to take what you've taught them or take what they've learned and create something new, create that original work, we are reaching those highest order thinking skills. And it's really supporting our students with understanding those skills, that content you're trying to teach them. And so by having students create video to demonstrate learning, we're reaching the top of Bloom's taxonomy. And that's where we really want to provide those learning opportunities for our students. Additionally, there have been recent studies that show that employers want workers that have the skills in problem solving, have digital literacy, have leadership skills, and of course are creative. Because creativity is a skill that's so important in problem solving, creating new things, thinking outside of the box. Also, by supporting our students with creating video, we are providing our students the ability to create with that voice, video, images, or a combination of all three. And this really allows that opportunity for students that would not be possible with just a simple written assignment. And what I'm going to talk about in a little bit is that video and writing go hand in hand. And if you have students that are not really engaged in the writing process, bringing video into that is really going to increase that engagement in the writing process, because they're going to have this really cool project that they get to publish their writing piece to demonstrate that in a visual way. Additionally, we know our students are spending a ton of time consuming information online. It's almost the scale is completely tipped. So we have students spending a lot of time, and adults, consuming information via social media, YouTube, all of those kind of things. And so by bringing video creation into the classroom, we're now flipping that switch, right? We're now allowing our students become content creators instead of content consumers. And we're teaching them that important skill of how to visually represent information, which is such an important skill going into college and career. Also, by asking students to take what they learn and create something new, like I said before, we're reaching those highest order thinking skills that's so important in the classroom. Additionally, a study done through Adobe Source, they interviewed a ton of students to kind of get their thinking on creativity and the skill of being creative. And what they found is within this large group of students, 89% of the students believed creativity is going to play a really important role in solving today's global challenges. They also found that 78% of students say that they learn best by doing and creating. So by having you teach a skill and then having them demonstrate their learning by creating something new is really helping them with that learning process. Additionally, 76% of students wish there was more focus on creativity in the classroom. So allowing them that voice and choice. All right, this is what you need to demonstrate you know how to do. How are you going to do that? Or these are 3 choices you can do. And then video creation, of course, because that's what I'm really passionate about, could be one of those choices. So with all this information, what's the bottom line? The bottom line is, educators, we know it's so important to continue to provide opportunities for our students to foster creativity during the learning process, because we know it's how they learn best. And we know it's going to really support those highest order thinking skills and really help them learn those skills, master those skills of the standards that we're teaching. All right, so we talked a little bit about why it's important to use video creation in the classroom and why it's important to have our students demonstrate learning through video. Now, well, what do we do? What can we do in our classroom? This is a very small list. There are endless possibilities in terms of having your students create video, but I wanted to list a few. So one example would be presentation videos. A lot of us, I know me in the classroom, I used to have my students create Google Slides, which is wonderful and fantastic, and they're still very important. But also another choice could be creating video presentations. And I'm going to show you a little bit of examples of that in a little bit. Okay. You could also have them bring a personal narrative to life. So here is an example of combining video with the writing process. If you're teaching narrative in your classroom, how now maybe let them know that at the end, they're going to have a published piece where they're taking that narrative and they're bringing it to life. And they're actually, they're having characters acting out. They have the scenes of everything that's going on within their writing process. You could even shorten that and maybe have them make a trailer for their personal narrative, right? To kind of sum up those important events that happen within that personal narrative. You could also have them create a documentary on a specific topic. So if you're teaching social studies or history, maybe they could create some sort of documentary to demonstrate their understanding of the events that they're learning. Additionally, you could have them create GIFs for vocabulary to have them really understand those specific words that you're teaching them. They could create a book trailer, kind of like I talked about that personal narrative trailer. So maybe at the end of a story that they've read, they can go ahead and create a trailer that represents all of those main events that occurred throughout the story. They could also create stop motion videos to showcase a concept in science. Again, this is a small snippet of the things that you can do with your students in terms of video creation. So here's the how. Now, there are tons of different tools, but these are the tools that I am most in love with and I feel seamlessly integrate with Google. And some of you might be familiar. I saw a lot of Flipgrid within our waterfall activity, so maybe you'll get inspired by the lesson that I'm going to show you today with Flipgrid. But we have Screencastify, WeVideo, Flipgrid, and Padlet. And within the notes section of this slide, I go ahead and I typed in all of the ways that these tools integrate with Google. If you're not familiar with Screencastify, it is an extension. It's a screencasting extension that allows students or teachers to access their webcam and screencast themselves or screencast whatever is on their screen. So I've seen a lot of teachers use this to kind of as tutorials to walk their students through some sort of independent activity. It was definitely used a lot in virtual learning, but by flipping that switch and now having students create Screencastify, it's a fantastic tool for tutorials, having students do tutorials, and I'm going to show you an example of that. Think alouds of different strategies or thinking process that they're going through for a specific skill that you're teaching. Screencastify seamlessly integrates with Google by allowing you to every time you create a video, it will automatically, your first video will automatically create a folder within your drive, and then it will input every single video you've created right in your drive. So it's really, really easy to share those videos through Google Drive. Also, Screencastify Submit is a new addition to Screencastify. And this is more of a dashboard for teachers to kind of assign those lessons. And so you can assign a Screencastify lesson and then connect that to your Google Classroom. Your kids go in to that Screencastify assignment, they click on it, and whatever you assign, webcam, screen, whatever that might be, will automatically pop up on their screen, and they'll go ahead and start recording that video, whatever it is that you would like them to do. It's really, really fantastic, and they keep updating Screencastify, and I'm in love with that tool. Additionally, we have WeVideo. That is a video creation web-based tool, and it's a little bit more in depth. I would say probably third grade up would be really successful with WeVideo. There's lots of things you can do within WeVideo. You can obviously do a video presentation, you can do GIFs, there's podcasting capabilities on there as well. And why I like this is any video that you create will automatically, again, populate in a folder it creates for you in your drive. And then it's really easy to share from there. And then then kids can also, add that to Google Classroom via the link in their drive. Flipgrid is completely free to educators. Let me back up. So Screencastify and WeVideo both have free versions, but then there is also a paid version. And then Flipgrid now rebranded to Flip. I'm not sure if you know that. So they just announced that they're dropping the grid and they're going to Flip. So if you start hearing people talk about Flip, they're talking about Flipgrid. This is completely free to educators, and it's another really great video tool where everyone's video is on one screen. So it's kind of almost like a bulletin board with everyone's video, and you can see everyone's video and be able to interact with those. And I'm going to show you an example of that. And then last but not least, Padlet. Padlet is also kind of like a virtual bulletin board. And it's you can put kids place basically like stickies within the virtual bulletin board. And within each of those stickies, they do have options for screencasting and accessing your webcam through video. And I'm going to show you an example of that as well. All right, so everything here has a free version or is completely free for Flipgrid. And I recommend as I go through, I'm going to show you an example lesson for each one of these tools. In the back of your mind, figure out one tool that really resonates with you, or maybe something you're already learning or already using and you want to add to. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time at the end of this session or in the middle of the session to choose one and kind of explore it a little bit more. So as I go through these lesson examples, try to find one that really resonates with you and something that you would like to explore a little bit more. All right, Gracia, do we have any questions before I move on to this activity?
We had one about, and is that free, but I think you already covered that. So besides that, that's it.
Okay, great. All right, so in the face-to-face environment, this is actually an activity that I do. You actually would do the activity, but I wanted to leave it in this presentation because I think it's just a really great example of how you can use Flipgrid strategically to support mastery of the skills that you're teaching, and then also really support that student-centered learning where students are now learning from each other, not just from that teacher. And so in this activity, what I would do is I would talk to the adults in the room and say, okay, I'm going to put on my teacher hat, you're going to put on your student hat, and we're going to kind of act out a lesson like you might do in your classroom. And I let them know, excuse me, I let them know that the learning target of this specific lesson is based on a made-up standard, because I just kind of got fun with it, but I made up a standard, and it was based on, at the end of this lesson, you can determine the best technique to create the longest flight with a glider plane, and then they would know they're successful if they can explain and demonstrate the best technique for the longest flight. I also let them know that I want you to pretend as a student and me as a teacher. Prior to this specific activity, I have already given you direct instruction on different techniques. I've already given you multiple ways to learn this information. I maybe had you read a text, watch a video, and then obviously give you that direct instruction. And then I also gave you that academic vocabulary, things like angle, glide, lift, drag, and thrust. So before this actual lesson that we're going to do, or this activity we're going to do, you've received, I want you to pretend you've received all of this other instruction. And so why I like to do this is because it kind of shows that technology or video creation doesn't have to happen all the time, right? It's strategic and it's placed to now, after we've done all of these other best practices, now we're going to bring in another best practice, which is video creation, and it's going to support that learning. And now it's going to help you demonstrate your understanding of the specific skill I'm trying to teach you. All right, and so then we hop in and we do the plane activity. So I tell them we're going to have some teamwork. You're going to get 30 seconds and you need to create a group of 4. So they do that. And then I say, okay, with your 2 minutes, now you have 2 minutes, you're going to assemble the plane with the written instructions. So I actually give them a little glider kind of like this, and they go ahead and assemble that plane, working together as a team, like we want our students to do. And then I tell them they have 3 minutes to determine the best technique for the flight, and they get to practice that. So they have some time, they're flying the gliders around the room. It's kind of fun because everyone's glider is going everywhere. And then they're talking about, they're determining the best technique. Now, obviously, if you were doing something like this with your students, they would already have that academic vocabulary. They would already have read text, watch videos to kind of really understand what that best technique is. And now it's time to kind of verbalize that understanding and create a demonstration of that. And then I give them 5 minutes to go onto Flipgrid to record their group's findings of what the technique will result in the longest flight. And then they record that demonstration using this technique. And I tell them that it's really important to assign roles. And I would do this in a classroom as well. So you always want roles within this activity. So maybe you want 1 recorder, 1 actor, and 2 directors. So the recorder's job is obviously to work the technology. There's 1 device, you are recording. The director is making sure all that academic vocabulary is in there, how the recorder is going to follow the plane, where the actor is going to stand, right? And then the actor is going to be that person that goes ahead and acts out what they think is the longest flight and kind of show that. And the reason why I like to talk about roles is obviously everyone plays a part in that learning process, but then also we know not everybody wants to be in front of a camera, but they still are a part of that learning process. So again, kids can kind of you know, maybe there's 2 recorders or there's 2 actors, or maybe there's 3 actors and the recorder is also the director. So they can definitely play around with that by giving kids specific roles. They're all part in that process. And then it also supports those kids that might not feel comfortable in front of that camera. And then also an extension activity, we always want to think about, okay, now we've created this video, what next? What is the purpose of this video? How is this going to support additional learning? And so I would probably do this the second day, but for those early finishers, maybe now, okay, you're going to look at different groups. You're going to give feedback, agree, disagree, ask questions, add to, maybe if you tried this. But that would have to obviously be really taught on how to give that good feedback in the classroom. So I'm just going to show you really quickly what this looks like. If you haven't seen Flip, this is their new little icon right here. Okay, and I have administrators in here. I have brand new teachers. I have teachers across the district, because so you can kind of see what I mean by a bulletin board. So you get to create a selfie. So we have teams working together and they're all practicing the longest flight. And so what kids can do is they can go in, they can click on one of the videos. We didn't do comments because we didn't have time, but this is, again, like I said, that next step of giving that feedback is kids can actually go in, give video comments or written comments, giving that feedback based on the video that they've created. So I'm not sure who did what, so I'm just going to click on it real quick.
Hello, good morning from Beaumont High School, room 211. Is that right? H211. There you go. This room has been transformed into an airport this morning, and we are going to demonstrate the qualities needed for the best flight. We've spoken as a group after a long unit of study, and actually just 2 days, just 2 minutes. And we found a few things with my intelligent group here. One, the thrust is important. If you thrust too hard, you're going to break a wing or maybe hit something and ruin all future flights.
All right, I'm not going to show you the whole video, but you can get an idea. So with your students, they'll be able to watch the videos. They can add a comment right here, add a video comment. And my recommendation, no matter what grade level it is, if it's high school, middle school, elementary, give them sentence frames and really go over what good feedback looks like, so that they really reflect on the learning process. Do I agree with that? Is that what I've learned about? Maybe try this next, or maybe ask specific questions. I didn't understand this. So it really helps, again, with that reflection process. That next step is really, really powerful in supporting our students' mastery with the skills that we're teaching, is that feedback, right? We know that's a really high impact instructional strategy, but it needs to be taught on what it looks like, what it sounds like, and what good feedback really looks like, or what good questioning looks like. Okay. All right. Here's an example of a screencast lesson. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on this. Now, if you're a secondary teacher, I don't want you to get turned off. So I found in the past, sometimes I show this to secondary teachers. They go, well, I'm a secondary teacher. That's a 3rd grade classroom. And what I want to remind us, and even if you're not in the classroom, maybe you are an administrator or you are a coordinator like me or a tech TOSA, thinking about how you might support your teachers and thinking about how to create lessons like this. It's not about the content. It's about the development of the lesson. It's about the structure of the lesson. And it's about how we get our students to reflect on their learning and master those skills that we're teaching them. So if you're a secondary teacher or maybe a secondary administrator, what that might be, just think about the structure of this lesson and then how you might incorporate that based on the content that you're teaching or supporting. So in this particular lesson, we have 3rd grade students doing a math problem. They're learning the skill of multiplying single digit numbers. And so in this lesson, they were broken up into groups of, I believe, 4. And before they started, each group got a different multiplication problem, but the same multiplication problem within that group. Individually, they had to first solve that problem individually, and they needed to choose between the 2 strategies that they had currently been using. So after they individually solved that problem, they got together as a group and they compared their answers. If they got different answers, they had to go through and they all had to come to agreement of what the correct answer was, and then determine what was going to be the strategy they were going to demonstrate a think aloud with. So once they did that, they assigned the roles of the think aloud. So who's going to be the recorder, who's going to be the actor, who's going to be the director, to make sure that this think aloud can be viewed well, right? They can be heard, and it really demonstrates the strategy that they chose to solve the problem. Again, these students obviously got direct instruction on how to solve a multiplication problem this way. And they got direct instruction on the 2 different strategies that they had to choose from. And then now they're putting that into practice. Okay, so I'm going to show you this lesson. It's super cute, or a quick little video that the student created. And this is a think aloud.
So we're going to be solving the problem 9 times 3. Well, the easier way for me is just 3 times 9. And so we're going to be doing 3 groups of 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we know in each group they're going to have 9 in them, and 9 plus 9 equals 18, and 18 plus 9 equals 27. And so 27s are going to be our answer, and we have 3 groups and 9 in them.
All right, I saw it's a little fuzzy video, I'm sorry, but you could really hear her. So that's just a really, I think, a great example of having kids do those tutorial think alouds. Also, you're going to notice that their actual computer is flipped around. So I can kind of show you that. So we have Chromebooks here at the district. And a lot of times when kids do a think aloud, they hold up their paper, but it's that mirror image, right? And so something that we found, Flipgrid actually now has that switch around, sorry, flip. But what we had our students do is they flipped their computer around. Can you see that? And they closed the lid. They put their paper right here and kind of closed the lid, and they stood above the paper and did it that way, which made it a lot more easy to follow and listen. It was a better quality video for students learning from each other. So this is another really great example of creating that student-centered learning classroom, where now it's not just information coming from teacher to student. They have now learned from the teacher, and now they're taking what they've learned, they're creating these videos, and they're now they're learning from each other. So that next step again would be that feedback, right? So kids are going to go ahead and watch those videos, ask questions based on the strategy, kind of almost like a number talk, but a virtual number talk in ways, to kind of again reflect on the learning. Do they understand? Do they agree with the answer, yes or no, why, maybe ask questions about a specific strategy, whatever that might be. But again, that needs to be specifically taught and modeled by the teacher, and then integrated in, depending on the grade level, slowly in to those students to kind of start practicing how to give proper feedback and how to question and ask questions. Okay. That's one of my faves. She's like the cutest little thing. So these are examples of videos in the classroom. These are secondary examples, but again, if you're an elementary teacher, I want you to think about the content of the video and how that might play a part in the content that you're specifically teaching in your classroom. This first one is a student demonstrating their understanding of recycling.
Have you ever finished your water bottle and simply thrown it away in the trash and went on with your day? Well, today I'm going to be teaching you how to recycle. But first, you're probably like, what is recycling? Recycling is the process of taking aluminum, plastic, and glass.
All right, I'm just going to give you a snippet for time reasons. But as you can see, now that was a student, he decided he wanted to do it at home. That doesn't have to be a thing. They can do it within the classroom and do those same sort of things. But being able to take the understanding of what is recycling and demonstrate that in actual visual representation, again, reaches those higher order thinking. It supports students being creative in the classroom, and then really helps support the mastery of those skills and standards that we're teaching. This is the example. This is kind of like what I was talking about, the presentation on steroids. So I want you to think about this example in versus maybe a Google slide. Now, again, I love Google Slides. I'm using a Google slide right now. There's so many amazing things you can do with Google Slides, but maybe a student giving them choice on Google Slides or a video, they can get creative and might be really, really engaged in creating something like this instead of just a Google slide.
Back in Aztec life, the Aztec civilization would eat many foods like beans, squash, tomatoes, chilies, avocados. Maize, which was to make corn, and other things is what they depended on. The Aztec also ate bugs like grasshoppers, worms, and other types of bugs that were either cooked or raw.
So WeVideo does a really good job with the voiceovers and showing video or images based on the information that you want to do. And then again, this is a great example. All of these examples are great examples of how you can tie in that writing process, because these students had to actually write a script. They had to write a script of the voiceover or how they're going to add it out. So for this example, he wrote out a script of all of the elements that he needed to have included in his video presentation, and then went ahead and voiced that over. Here's another example of kind of a video presentation as well.
Hello, as some of you may know, pre-revolutionary France was really unfair towards the common folk. This is because there are three social estates in descending order: clergy, nobility, and commoners. But above all, there is one social estate that has ultimate power: the king. And the reason why he has so much power is because he believes that his power came straight from God, and whatever he does, whatever he says must be true or false, or yeah, you get the idea. Hear me, peasants. Do as I say, and thou shalt keep your head upon these shoulders. For I have been appointed here by God himself. And
anyway, that kid cracks me up. He got really creative in that video as well. And he actually learned, nobody taught him. The teacher was really new at WeVideo, but he learned how to get overlay, obviously the king or those peasants, and how to move them across a picture. And so again, when we give kids the ability to be creative, they go above and beyond and they find different things than we might as teachers not know at the moment, and we learn so much from them. And then another thing that I would love to tell you is that if video is something that intimidates you and you're not really sure how to do it, one thing I love doing, and again, it depends on your grade level, I would say 3rd up to 12 would be, you always have those kids that are early finishers. They're working at a higher level than a lot of the other students, and you're constantly trying to find ways to engage them, ways to challenge them. And something that when I was a teacher, I would love to do is I would have, it'd always be like 2 or 3 of my students that were they needed more, they needed to be challenged. And so when I wanted to learn something new, I would say, okay, when you're finished doing this, I want you to go and become an expert at this. And then you're going to teach the classroom. Okay. And then I would learn from my students. I learned how to do WeVideo from my students when I used to be in the classroom. And so just know that you don't have to be the knower of all things. Our students are amazing at technology, and we actually end up learning more from them than us trying to know all of the information. And then that really instills that leadership quality within them, and it really, that buy-in, that engagement, you'll see happen across the board. Okay. Oops. I have a feeling it's going to go through each slide. Sorry. I need to fix that. All right. The last example I have is a Padlet example. This is an example from a first-year teacher, and I was just really, really impressed with this teacher. She wanted to just jump head in and start bringing video within her classroom, and Padlet was something that really resonated with her and something that she wanted to use. And the cool thing about Padlet is there's so many different things. You don't have to just use video, but again, it's kind of like that virtual bulletin board. One of the things you can do within that sticky is a kid can create a video and post it within that sticky. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you this example. And in this particular lesson, she had her students choose between 2 different strategies. And I'm sorry, I don't know the HTO strategy right off the top of my head, but she had vertical and HTO. It looks like they're doing 3-digit subtraction problems. And so they got to choose a strategy and then do a video based or demonstrating what they did. So it says work with your group and decide who will solve the problem vertically or with the HTO strategy, and then who will do the check. Work together to solve and record yourself explaining what you did. So they went ahead and recorded themselves explaining what they did, and then kids can actually scroll through and click on one of those videos. I'm going to click on this one really quick.
So how I did vertical form is that it's 900 minus 672. So what I did is I can't do 0 minus 2. So I looked at my tens. I don't have any tens in 900. So I went to the hundreds and borrowed a 10.
So super cute. He was really excited about recording. Now, as a new teacher, what I might do with this teacher to have her reflect on, what she should do next. Obviously, working on what good feedback looks like, good job. That's great. It's a great start. But then what is a good job, right? We know as teachers is instead of saying good job, I like how you blank, or, giving those sentence strips for those sentence frames for those teachers or those students to help them kind of give that good feedback. And then another question I might ask for this particular student or teacher is, do you feel that the other students can actually view these examples? And maybe yes for some, maybe no for others. So again, it doesn't really matter where you start, right? She obviously jumped right in, she started, and then reflecting on what worked, what didn't, and then what are those next steps to support my students' learning and create that student-centered classroom. So I was really, really impressed with this teacher on diving headfirst and starting to get her students to use video to create that student-centered learning and foster that creativity and promote mastery of those skills that she was teaching. Okay, before I move on, any other questions, Gracia?
Yes, there's one. Does Padlet allow more than 20 people posting at a time?
It should, yes. I've never had a problem with it saying that they can't post. Has anyone else experienced that? Because I personally have not. There is, I know sometimes it can kind of like when a bunch of people are posting, they move around a little bit and they have to go ahead and find their post. But the cool thing is with Padlet, it's usually like a plus sign right here. They click on it and their sticky jumps up and then they put everything on it. And then when they press submit, it will populate within the Padlet. So I think if I remember correctly, that has changed before. Usually when they press the plus button, it would jump right onto the wall and then it would move around. But now I think it's a little bit easier. So maybe I hope that answered the question. So I've personally never had an issue with more than 20 individuals posting on a Padlet at one time because it jumps up on your screen. You fill in whatever it is that you want to put within your sticky, and then you press submit, and then it jumps with it onto the wall. And in this particular example, you can see she created columns. The cool thing about Padlet, there's so many things you can do. You can do timelines, which is really cool. You can post stickies on a map. So maybe if you're teaching social studies or history and you want students to drop a pin on a specific or a sticky in a specific area on a map, and then they do a video recording, I don't know, explaining an event or whatever you might have, is really cool. And then you can also, organize your stickies based on categories as well. You can also just do a random wall where everything's just kind of everywhere. So there's so many different things you can do with Padlet. And I used this back in the day when I was in the classroom, and it has just only gotten better over the last, 8 years. And so I highly recommend this tool as well. Any other questions?
No, there's no more questions.
Okay. So now what I want to do for you is I just gave you a lot of information. I hope you found at least one tool that really resonated with you or something that really piques your interest, that you are excited about kind of learning a little bit more. So what I want to do right now is give you about 15 minutes to choose one of the 4 tools that I showed you, and go ahead and there's some videos here or some tutorials you can kind of jump in and check out. If you have been using Flipgrid and you now want to kind of dive in and see what those new what's new, I went ahead and put this on here as well. So there's a lot of really new great things coming out with Flip. It's really hard for me to say Flip and not Flipgrid. I apologize. But again, these bottom areas are going to be for those teachers that maybe are already using this tool but want to dive a little bit deeper. So I'm going to go ahead and be quiet and give you some time to explore, maybe think about how you might want to use this going into next year. Maybe a get to know you activity in the very beginning to kind of have a fun way to play with this tool so that when you use it for learning, it just becomes second nature for your students, whatever that might be. So this is your time to really explore and check out and dive a little bit deeper into each one of those tools. And if you have any questions, put it in the chat and I'll be happy to jump in and answer.
Lonnie, there's a question.
Of course.
The chat, it says, with the Wii video, does each student have to sign up, and how easy is it? Have students turn in their videos on Google Classroom?
Yes. So let me show you really quickly. And then again, if you watch those videos, it is going to show you that specific question, but I can go ahead and jump in right now. Sorry, we want to do personal. Okay, because this would probably be the free version. So for a specific video, now video can look a little bit daunting at first if you're not used to it, but once you have a few things down, it's really easy to just like drag and drop what the items you want based on how you want to layer it a little bit. But once students are finished, what they would do is they come to finish, and then they would go ahead and save it in their drive, right? And then they would export. And so within your drive, let me see if I can find it really quickly on the fly. Oops, I spelled it wrong. I believe it's this folder. Let me see. So here are all the videos, right? I've created. It automatically will populate it in their drive. So what they can do is when you go into Google Classroom, showing you a lot of steps right now, but where are you, Google Classroom? Am I blind? Did they change the icon? Okay. And a student is wanting to post their video within Google Classroom, you could just create a lesson. Let me just show you here. So what I would do is I would create a lesson, or I'm sorry, an assignment. And then with that assignment, obviously they could just attach through Google Drive and then attach the video. The only thing that they would need to make sure that they do, which sometimes takes a little bit of time for the younger students, is they just need to make sure that when they share it, it will automatically be under restricted, right? So for you to visit, they just need to make sure they share it out. Now mine's with Beaumont Unified School District. Normally in districts, students don't have the ability to anyone with a link, I've never seen a district that allows that, but that could be a thing. It's usually only within the domain. And so once they choose, you know, that school district domain, and then they come here and they add that to the actual lesson, or I'm sorry, the assignment. So they would just attach it as an attachment. I hope that makes sense. Sorry.
We have another question.
Okay.
It says the getting started link for the Padlet links to the presentation slides.
What about this one is not working?
Yeah, it's taking.
Oh, sorry guys. I'll do that right now. Thank you. Hold on one second. Thank you for letting me know that. Oops. Hold on. Wrong one. Padlet. It's Padlet, right?
Yes. And then we have another question.
Sure.
This what makes WeVideo better than the video available within Google Classroom?
The video available within Google Classroom. Can we highlight on that a little bit? Like, what do we mean by that?
She just had that question. There's no anything else.
Well,
She said video editing.
So is there now video editing in Google Classroom? That's new to me, sorry. I didn't know that, if that's a thing. But what I can show you in WeVideo is if you want to create, you can create a video, you can create a screencast recording, you can create a GIF, or you can create a podcast. So there's lots of different things that you can actually create within WeVideo. The cool thing about WeVideo is there's lots of different layering techniques. You can get as simple or as complex as you like. Now, obviously, like iMovie and things is even more complex. This is kind of a little bit more elementary and easier to use. But it does start building those skills of how to actually layer in your videos. And so there's lots of different opportunities in terms of like text. So let's say you want to have, you know, a slide, a title slide. So I'll bring that down here, and then I'm actually doing everything that's in the video, so I apologize. With transitions, you know, they add the transition, and then maybe they want to go to video. The cool thing about the education WeVideo, if you do talk maybe your site admin in or your district into purchasing, I highly recommend it. We only purchase a limited number of subscriptions, and then if we fill those subscriptions, then we kind of add to it. But the education, one of the best things about the education account with WeVideo is this curated resource of videos. So you could basically search anything under the C, and it'll give you tons of copyright-free content. Oh, of course, they're updating the library right now, so that's a bummer. I've never seen that before, so they might be just doing some updates right now with the library. So I'll just pull, here's the under the sea, so you could like pull this down, and then you can go and you can overlay some text over the top of it and put it on top. So there's just lots of different things you can do. You can do audio, you can do a voice recording over as well. So you can have the kids talk over it. So I hope that answers the question in terms of why is WeVideo better? There's just a lot more you can do in terms of creativity with WeVideo.
There's another question. It
Sure.
says the Padlet tips and tricks it's all in Spanish. Is there an English version?
Is it really? I'm so sorry, you guys. I put this together really quickly, so I apologize.
And then the last question is, do you have the paid WeVideo subscription?
Why should you use Miro?
Yes, I do have a paid WeVideo subscription. And when I was a teacher, I paid for it myself just because I loved it. I apologize, you guys, about that. My recommendation right now, because of COVID, we are finding, I don't know about your district, but our district, there's a ton of funds being allocated for sites and for students. And so my recommendation is, if you're a teacher, come with a plan, show how you're going to be using this tool, how it's going to support student learning, and then talk to your administrator about possibly either buying a school-wide purchase or maybe a couple individual purchases. If you're at the district level, that's what I did, is I showed how this would impact our district in terms of mastery with skills and standards, which is, our ultimate goal. And just showing the different examples of how this could support learning, and we purchased it. We started with a limited number of subscriptions. I think we right now only have 2,000 subscriptions. So obviously not everyone's using it throughout the district, but we want to put it in the hands of the teachers that want to use it. So yes, I do have a premium subscription. Here, let's use, I like this lady. She's really good. I added Padlet on there last minute, so I really apologize for that.
Hello there and welcome.
I promise you I'm usually a lot more.
Hello there and welcome back to my channel. If you
Any other questions?
There's no more questions.
Okay. I mean, I love all of these tools, and what you're going to notice is all the tools kind of do something similar. It's really what resonates with you and how you see yourself using it within the classroom.
We actually have a lot more questions.
Yeah.
I just got two. So the first one is, I'm imagining myself introducing an assignment where students make an informative and documentary for a research assignment. How will you teach students to use these cool things, and what is the best free version of these?
Okay, I'm imagining myself introducing an assignment where students make an informative or documenting for a research assignment. How would you teach students to use these cool things, and what would the best free version of these? So the easiest tool I think would be Screencastify, because they could create Google Slides, which obviously, we're here because we're Google districts, create Google Slides, and then they could screencast themselves kind of going over those slides. That would be kind of the easiest free version. Video, I think, would have the most bang for its buck in terms of like creativity, and like you saw in those examples that I showed you. Informative or documentary. Flipgrid is really you in front of the camera. So I think you would want to use a tool that allows us to hear the students' information as well as show those visual representations of whatever they're trying to talk about for the informative information. So my thing would be either Screencastify or Video. Padlet, what they could do with that is they could create a screencast of themselves explaining something, but then also you can embed a YouTube. It's not them creating that YouTube video, but there's that option as well. For me personally, I would probably stick with Screencastify Video, and I really love that example. I see another question about Padlet and Padlet Mini. I have not heard Padlet Mini. This is the hardest part about my job. It must be is it a Chrome? Might be a Chrome extension. Yeah, it's a Chrome extension. So I haven't used Padlet Mini, but what I'm assuming it's a Chrome extension. So I'm going to have to check that out. The hardest part about my job is sticking up or figuring out all the new stuff that's coming out. So I apologize. I don't know, but I would say Padlet Mini is obviously the extension where it pops up and maybe is in a small square on your screen. In terms of Padlet would be a web-based, you would go actually on the website and you would have the full page there. But again, I don't know. I'm sorry. I haven't used that before. So my question about installation setting up Screencastify is not opening. What do I do? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to go to the Chrome store and you want to look up, actually, I'll show you the process right now. Let me erase my Screencastify. And then I'll start from scratch and I'll show you the steps and maybe you can see. It always has you do a quick survey. So I'm going to go ahead and look up Screencastify. Okay. And then you want to add it to Chrome. You want to add the extension. And then you're going to see it popping up here. I'm not sure if you're familiar. So once I click out of it, it's going to hide behind your puzzle piece. That's something I think that's been around for about 6 months, maybe a year. And so if you have extensions that you use all the time, I always recommend head to your puzzle piece because you're going to see all your extensions and I pin it. And I use Screencastify all the time. So you want to go ahead and pin that. And so then from there, the first time you open it, you click on the extension and it's going to walk you through kind of a step-by-step. Oh, because I've already done it, it's not doing it, but it will walk you through like a little video and ask you a couple of questions. You answer those questions and then you'll see like confetti happen and it says, yay, you're done. And then it will go ahead and open up. This is Screencastify Submit. So it's kind of like that web-based area or platform instead of just the extension. So in the past, there was no like web page you could go to with all of your videos and stuff. It was just through the extension. And then you could find your videos here and you could, do things within the drop-down menu and you would just record right from here. Now a Screencastify Submit, you have all your videos. You go to Screencastify, you can do a new assignment and you can add those assignments to Google Classroom. Did that help at all to help you figure out next steps, getting it? I see thanks, so I'm hoping that helped. Ruthie, did that help you?
I just have to do it step by step so I can learn how to implement it.
So my recommendation for you, Ruthie, it's the best tool that I personally use is when I say when I watch a YouTube video, I play it for a second, like to get the first step and I stop it and then I do it. And then I do that step and then I go back to the video, I play it for a few more seconds until it shows me the next step. I stop it and then I do that step because I forget.
Yeah, me too.
And so I call it the stop it, try it.
Okay.
Yeah, play it, stop it, try it, play it, stop it, try it. Strategy, and that really helps me learning new tools. So don't feel like you have to watch the whole video and then go and do it. Watch it first step, stop, do it, then go back, watch the second step, stop, do it, and that will really help kind of walk you through.
Okay, so do you go to YouTube to see Screencastify steps, how to do it?
Yes. So do you have the presentation that I am presenting?
Yes.
So if you come to this first link on slide 17, you come here, it's going to walk you through installing.
But it wasn't opening up. That's what was happening for me. I couldn't get it to open up.
Oh, this YouTube wasn't opening up? Okay, let me try this. I'm talking to Ruthie, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to throw this link in the chat and why don't you try that?
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, let me go to the chat. Is it in now?
Yes.
Okay.
At the very
there
bottom.
It is. It came up.
Oh, good.
Yay. So is that going to be for the rest of them? Let me check on the rest of them and see if it's going to come because I couldn't get either one of them.
Okay.
So you started with Screencastify.
So
Okay, it may be underneath.
Yeah, if you click on the link, you'll see it pop up and then you'll just click on this right here.
Okay.
And let's see how much time we have, everybody.
Get started with Queens.
All right. We are I'm going to go ahead and continue on because that was our 15 minutes is up. I hope I know that's not a lot of time, but I hope you had a little bit of time to explore a tool that really resonated with you, something that you're excited about trying in the next school year. And I like us to always focus on one thing, because I know when I go to trainings, they always show me all these great things, and then I get kind of overwhelmed because there's so many things to do. So my recommendation is to my teachers is choose one, do it when you feel like you're comfortable with it, you have it down, maybe your kids have it down, then maybe think about maybe layering something else. And then maybe they can now, once they get good at that, they can now have a choice between two things that you feel comfortable with and that they feel comfortable with. All right. We are almost done. All right, so reflection time. I just want to do a really quick reflection after we've talked about using video in the classroom, using it to help our students reflect on their learning, demonstrate mastery. What I want to ask you, this is another waterfall activity, is I want you to take just a minute to type this in the chat. Don't press enter until I say waterfall, but type your answer in. How can video create learning environments that would not be possible without this technology? So think about that. How can video create learning environments that would not be possible without this technology in the classroom? I want you to take a minute to think about that. I'm going to only give you about 30 seconds because we're running out of time. All right, waterfall. I know that was a lot of time, but let's see what we got. All right. My question, that's questions. Let's see where we at. Students have a chance to share what they've learned without being in front of the class. Really, that's right on point. It takes away stage fright for some kids because now they can record in private. It gives students the opportunity to display their learning and thought process. Yes, these are all fantastic. Great option for students who don't want to present in front of the class. Beautiful. So it also really supports that barrier of maybe that literacy barrier. If you have an upper grade student that is reading at a, maybe even a second grade level or first grade level, and they're maybe in the secondary classroom, whatever that might be, and they don't have those literacy skills, but maybe they're listening and they're learning and they'll be able to explain that thinking, and you can see, do they have it? Yes. Now we need to go ahead and fill in those literacy gaps. Yes. Beautiful. Something else I want you to think about before I leave you today is that by bringing video in the classroom, we're now providing a learning opportunity where students can stop, pause, rewind, watch as many times as they want, right? They now have access to that learning at any time, at any pace, and at any place. And so in the past, good teachers, we would demonstrate up on the board, we would bring students up and we would have them demonstrate on the board, and that is wonderful teaching, but that learning stopped when that teaching stopped. Now with technology and now with video, we're now allowing students to demonstrate their learning with each other. And then now students have access to that as much as they want, as often as they want. They can pause it, rewind it. And so that really also creates this learning environment that would not be possible without this technology. So with that, we are finished with our session. I hope you all really enjoyed this session. I'm really happy to have you. I love and am passionate about this type of technology in the classroom. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or just want to bounce ideas off. I'm always happy to help, even if you're in Beaumont or not. So have a great day of learning today, and I'm going to hang out in case anyone has questions. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And the next session starts at 11. And thank you, Lonnie, for all of your expertise and tips and tricks. We really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. It was great having everyone.